If we're both in exactly the same field, then prolepsis abounds, a few words and lots of nodding goes on. If you're in different fields, then it can take quite a long time before proofs are communicated effectively. And there are high-level descriptions, there are brief summaries of standard steps, but then there's more detail around the interesting ones. And Gower goes on, as I recall, to say that, or at least he develops a narrative around his proofs. And what's interesting to me is where he chooses to elaborate his narrative, presumably because he thinks the reader is going to find it an obstacle, and where he chooses not to elaborate the narrative, because he assumes that the reader will be able to carry that through on native wit and native mathematicality. So that's a significant component of narratives. And mathematicians use their experience of previously encountered proofs to help them discover new ones. I'm just saying the obvious here. Okay. So, some conjectures. First one, adjectives for theorems and proofs provide information equally about the object, the theorem or the proof, and the person situation. But I actually go so far as to propose a sort of a maths education Heisenbergian type principle, namely the ratio of the degree of precision in the description of the phenomenon to what I learn about the sensitivities of the describer is roughly constant. In other words, the more detail you give me when you describe some pedagogical situation, some maths education situation, the more detail you provide me, the more I learn about you, what you're sensitized to notice. Okay, perhaps less radical conjectures. Theorems are memorable when there is some surprise, but that's an affective response of the individual, not the property of the thing itself. Where there's considerable utility and power, these ideas have been talked about by many of the presenters already. And proofs are memorable when you can reconstruct them for yourself. Reconstruction involves having something come to mind cognitively, a few key ideas. In the past, groups of us have called them conceptual insights, or perhaps you could say a view from the back, so I'm bringing back the language of Goffman. Coming to heart affectively, a positive disposition. Some of you, I suspect, when I asked you to write down a theorem or two that you felt marvelous, things just closed in and you felt like not doing it. Just didn't feel like doing it. So if I ask a student to reconstruct a theorem and they just don't feel like doing it, what am I learning? I'm learning something about their affect, not necessarily about their mathematics. It's important to keep all of these three. This is the full, this is one of the ways of describing the psyche of a human being. All four of these. And coming to action behavior, you need access when something, when you have some details or some objects to work on, you need that action to come to action. You need some behavior to come to action, which can be described as access to technical handles or technical facility is necessary. And coming to attention. I'm afraid this is a reference to what I mostly think about, and there isn't time to go into it now. So the conjectures that we're hoping to pursue, Gila and I, have to do with prompting students to rehearse what for them are the key ideas or steps in a proof. What were the conceptual insights, the technical handles that were required in order for that proof to get through? Rehearsing the effectiveness of technical handles, particularly modes of presentation of the ideas and changing the presentation. In other words, promoting awareness of the act of proving, not just an indwelling of the proof itself. Develop a personal narrative or a précis of how I was forced in school to learn how to précis things. It's a word I haven't seen for a long time, so I thought I'd bring it in.
It's not a transitive verb.
What? To précis?
Yeah, it's not a transitive verb. You create a précis.
Okay, you don't précis something?
No.
You did a millennium ago when I was in school.
Well, no. I did at school. I had to précis this passage.
No, it's not a transitive verb. That's bureaucraties, never say that again.
Emily, you can't.
In the English education education system in the 60s it was.
Yeah, you can't constrain language like that.
I'm very tempted to say Humpty Dumpty is how language works. But okay, thank you very much. I will take cognizance of this.
You don't want to talk like a bureaucrat, do you?
Oh, no, certainly not.
Well, they do
Okay.
crazy things, they make them longer.
Right. So, if you're interested in contacting us and so on, that's our email. These slides will be on my website. The draft paper could be available from us if you were interested in it and or if you want to comment on it. There it is there. Can I be really bold and ask if I can finish in my usual way? Would you please spend 10 seconds, no more, asking yourself if there was something that struck you about this presentation? And if so, what was it and how, what was its significance for you? What might you do with it? 10 seconds now, please. Because what I'm interested in, and I want to invite other people to be interested in, is informing future practice of myself and others. Thank you very much.